I trust no one but you, human." The alien woman let me in on her secret. Her glowing, amethyst eyes bore into mine, her voice resonating like a soft chime within my mind. It was impossible to look away from her. Celestial being, unlike anything I'd ever imagined. Yet, here she stood in my tiny studio apartment, shrouded in an iridescent cloak, seeking my help. My mind reeled. Only yesterday, my biggest concern was whether I'd make rent this month. Now, I was apparently the only confidant of an extraterrestrial being who claimed to be on the run from her own people. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "Why me? Out of all the people on Earth, why would you trust me?" She tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Because your heart is untainted by ambition. You wish not for power or control, only for understanding. This quality is rare among humans and non-existent among my kind." Her words, though cryptic, struck a chord within me. I wasn't sure what I had done to earn her trust, but I knew she was desperate. Despite her ethereal appearance, she looked weary, the shimmer of her skin dimmed, and her posture slightly slumped. "What do you need from me?" I asked cautiously. She hesitated, her slender fingers fidgeting with the hem of her cloak. "My people, the Orleans, are pursuing me. They wish to extract knowledge I possess. Knowledge that could upend the balance of countless worlds, including your own. If they find me, they will stop at nothing to retrieve it." "What kind of knowledge?" I asked. Her gaze dropped, and she whispered, "The core. It's the essence of creation, the spark that ignites life. They intend to harness it, but such power cannot be wielded without consequence." The enormity of her revelation left me speechless. I wanted to dismiss her words as the ramblings of a lunatic, but the way her presence seemed to ripple the air around her made denial impossible. "How can I help?" I asked again, this time with resolve. "You must hide me," she said, "at least until I can recover my strength. The journey here has drained me." Though I had little to offer in terms of security or resources, I nodded. "You can stay here. It's not much, but it's safe." She looked at me with such gratitude that it made my chest tighten. "Thank you, human. You have a kind soul." The following days were a whirlwind. I learned her name was Elyria, and she had escaped her homeworld after refusing to participate in her people's plans to weaponize the core. She was not only an outcast, but a fugitive, hunted by relentless trackers capable of crossing galaxies. Elyria spent most of her time in my apartment, meditating in a shimmering cocoon of light. She explained it was how she replenished her energy. Meanwhile, I worked to keep her presence hidden. I stocked up on food and supplies, avoided visitors, and even skipped work to avoid leaving her alone for too long. As days turned into weeks, we grew closer. Elyria's initial formality softened, and she began to share snippets of her life. She told me of orally cities suspended in the skies, their towers woven from living crystal. She described oceans that sang in harmony with the stars and forests that glowed with bioluminescent life. It was a world so breathtakingly beautiful that I couldn't fathom why she'd ever leave. "Because beauty without compassion is hollow," she said one evening, as we sat on the floor sharing a meal. "My people have lost their way. They've become consumed by the desire to control, to dominate. I could not stand by and watch." Her words lingered in my mind, stirring a sense of admiration and sadness. Elyria was risking everything for a principle, something few humans, myself included, would do. One night, however, our fragile sanctuary was shattered. I awoke to a blinding light flooding the apartment and the sound of Elyria's voice, urgent and strained. "They've found me." I scrambled out of bed, heart pounding, to see Elyria standing by the window. Outside, the sky was illuminated by an eerie, pulsating glow. A sleek metallic craft hovered above the building, its shape unlike anything I'd ever seen. "What do we do?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "Run," she said. "I'll lead them away." "No," I protested. "You won't survive on your own." Her eyes softened. "I cannot let you be harmed because of me." Before I could argue further, the door exploded inward, and two towering figures stepped through. They were Orelise like Elyria, but their presence was cold and menacing. Their armor shimmered darkly, and their eyes glowed with a piercing blue light. Elyria stepped forward, placing herself between me and the intruders. "I will not go with you," she said, her voice firm. "You have no choice," one of them replied. His voice was devoid of emotion. "The core belongs to the Orelise." "The core belongs to no one," Elyria shot back. In a blur of motion, the room erupted into chaos. Elyria unleashed a wave of energy, sending the intruders staggering back. "Run," she yelled at me, but I couldn't leave her. Grabbing a heavy lamp from the table, I swung it at the nearest figure. It was a feeble attempt, but it distracted them long enough for Elyria to unleash another burst of light, this one powerful enough to shatter the walls of the apartment. "Go now," she shouted, her voice desperate. Reluctantly, I ran. I made it down the fire escape, just as the building shook with a deafening roar. Looking back, I saw Elyria's figure silhouetted against the glow of her attackers' weapons. It was the last thing I saw before the entire apartment was consumed in a blinding explosion. Hours later, I found myself wandering the city, dazed and heartbroken. I had no idea if Elyria had survived. The authorities were already swarming the area, their explanations filled with talk of a gas explosion. But I knew the truth. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. I found a new place to live, a new job, but the memory of Elyria never faded. I wondered if she had managed to escape, if her sacrifice had been worth it. Then, one evening, as I sat alone in my dimly lit apartment, a familiar glow filled the room. My heart leapt as I turned to see Elyria standing there, her eyes shining with the same amethyst light that had captivated me from the beginning. "Elyria," I whispered, overwhelmed with relief. She smiled, a gesture so warm it brought tears to my eyes. "I told you I trusted you, human, and that trust has saved us both." She explained that she had managed to evade capture, though it had taken every ounce of her strength. She had hidden among the stars, waiting for the right moment to return. "The core is safe," she said, "but my fight is far from over." I nodded, understanding that her journey was one I could never fully be a part of. But I also knew I'd do whatever I could to support her, no matter the cost. "You're not alone," I said. "Not as long as I'm here." Elyria's smile deepened, and for the first time, I saw hope in her eyes. Together, we would face whatever came next, bound by a trust that transcended worlds. And so, our unlikely alliance continued, a fragile yet powerful bond of trust and courage in the face of an uncertain future.